Here we go, the New Testament in chronological order. And of course, we said we're 23 years into it now. We're looking at 2 Corinthians, and Paul's going to talk about his life. So remember that some 20-something years ago, the Apostle Paul, we're in 2 Corinthians 11, I think we said that. So remember, the Apostle Paul, 20 years ago, he was persecuting the church. And he was doing it in Jerusalem, because that's where the action was. That's where everything was happening. The Jesus movement begins, and people are coming to Christ. And the Apostle Paul sees this as real competition to the Judaism of his upbringing. He wants to get rid of it. He wants to destroy it. And he's got the permission of the chief priests to do this. And the chief priests, they're all in cahoots with Rome. And so Rome lets these guys do what they want to do. And so Paul's out there causing all this violence and killing these Christians. And, Rome's probably saying, hey, what's going on? And the chief priests say, it's nothing, just look the other way. And so Rome looks the other way. So Paul's violent. We've said that he's a religious terrorist. He was. So they stoned Stephen to death right at the beginning of the real big persecution. And the Christians flee all over the place. They go to other countries, and the Apostle Paul chases them. And you've got to imagine the difficulty that was happening to these families as they're uprooted going to other countries, because they're not going to renounce their faith. And if they don't renounce their faith, there's a good chance that, people like the Apostle Paul and his minions are going to put you to death, persecution. So you're fleeing. And you can imagine the things that happen when you flee. You're leaving your home, and you're leaving rather rapidly and going to another country, and you're in danger from bandits on the road who want to rob you, want to take away from you. Those are some desolate roads out there in the Middle East, particularly in the first century. And so all kinds of just difficulties. And you know what happens to the Apostle Paul? These 25 years later, he experiences some difficulties. And, he was trying to stamp out that which was false in his estimation. And now he's going to encounter some other people who are false, who he's going to have to stamp out. And he's going to find out that some of the trouble that he was bringing on other people now brought on him. Life moves around, and that's why it's fun to really look at it chronologically, because this is 20 years later in Paul's life. Now that he's a Christian. Everything's going to get easy, right? Not at all. 2 Corinthians 11. He said, I hope you'll put up with me with a little foolishness. I'm gonna go for it. You guys have been asking me, about my credentials, and even though I started the church there, and you've turned against me, and we had that big blowout, and, it's still sort of going on. And so he's defending himself, but he's saying, I don't even know if it's worth it. But here we go. I hope you'll put up with a little bit of foolishness. Yeah, please put up with me. Let me go. Let me share. He said, I'm jealous for you with a godly jealousy. I promised you to one husband, Christ. He brings them to Jesus, and he wants to keep them there, so that I might present you as a pure virgin to him. But I'm afraid that just as Eve was deceived by the serpent's cunning, that your minds might somehow be led astray from your sincere and pure devotion to Christ. That somehow something's pulling you away from the simplicity. For if someone comes to you and preaches a Jesus other than the Jesus we preach, or if we receive a different spirit from the spirit you received from us, or a different gospel from one you accepted, you put it up with you easily. That we presented Jesus to you in a very clear form and tried to keep it Jesus. And you guys are now buying into all of this nonsense. The same thing happens in the 21st century. You come to Christ, and then all of a sudden there's people coming around bringing you all kinds of nonsense and telling you that, this is the true way and this is the spiritual way. And keep it simple. Stay simple. He said, I don't think that I'm the least inferior to these super apostles. Well, we have super apostles today who make all kinds of wild claims about themselves. And then there's these investigators that go around and find out these wild claims aren't true. Well, they weren't true in Paul's day and not true now. Stick with Jesus, the apostle of your faith. I may indeed be untrained as a speaker. Like I said, Paul was a lousy speaker. Probably was, but he was a good teacher, good discipler. But I do have some knowledge. I understand how the Old Testament fits together. I understand how Jesus is the fulfillment of all of that. And we have made this pretty clear to you in every way, that he has understanding. Was it a sin for me to lower myself in order to elevate you by preaching the gospel of God to you free of charge? He didn't charge anything. Paul said, I'm not going to go into an area and charge people. I robbed other churches by receiving support from them so to serve you. He was getting some support from some churches, but he wasn't getting it all the time either. But he wasn't taking it from the Corinthians. When he went into new areas, he was not taking money from people. And when I was with you and needed something, I wasn't a burden to you, for the brothers who came from Macedonia supplied what I needed. And I've kept myself from being a burden to you in any way, and I'll continue to do so. It's not going to be a burden to you to have me come and share the gospel. I can tell you that for sure. As surely as the truth of Christ is in me, nobody in the regions of Achaia will stop my boasting of mine. Nobody's going to do it. And I'm just going to keep saying, you know what? I'm just trusting the Lord, and the Lord takes care of me. And I don't really need you Corinthians to take care of me, because God will take care of me. And so now you're down on me for that. You can't win. Why? Because I don't love you? God knows I do. And I'll keep on doing what I'm doing in order to cut ground from underneath those who want an opportunity to be considered equal with us in the things they boast about. For these guys, they're false prophets. They're deceitful workers. They're masquerading as apostles of Christ. You know, they're coming in and they want payment. And Paul said, not me. Not me. I'll just share the gospel. If I have to work, I'll work. If I get it from other churches, I get it from other churches. If I get it from the other brothers, I get it from the other brothers. If we're all working, we're all working. But I'm not here to take your money. And no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. Deception. It's not surprising that if his servants also masquerade as servants of righteousness, their end will be but their actions deserve. Paul's saying that there's these demonic teachers moving around, these demonic teachers. And what did it cost Paul? Watch what he does here. Watch the life of an apostle. He brought trouble on other people. Watch this. I repeat, don't anyone take me for a fool. If you do, then tolerate me just as you would a fool, that I might do a little boasting. In this self-confidence boasting, I'm talking as the Lord would, but I'm not talking as the Lord would, but as a fool. Since many are boasting in the way that the world does, I'll boast too. And you gladly put up with fools, put up with me. In fact, you even put up with anyone who enslaves you and exploits you and takes advantage of you and puts on airs or slaps you in the face. To my shame, I admit we were too weak for you. So, whatever anyone else dares to boast about, I'm speaking like a fool now. I'm crazy to talk like this. I dare to boast about it. Are they Hebrews? I am too. Are they Israelites? I am too. Are they Abraham's descendants? So am I. Are they servants of Christ? I'm out of my mind to talk like this. I'm more. I've worked much harder. I've been in prison more frequently. I've been flogged more severely. I've been exposed to death again and again. 5 times I received from the Jews 40 lashes minus 1. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and a day in the open sea. I've been constantly on the move. I'm in danger in the rivers, in danger in bandits, danger from fellow Jews, dangers from Gentiles, dangers in the city, dangers in the country, dangers at sea, dangers from false believers. And I've labored and toiled and gone without sleep. I've known what it is to be hungry and thirst, and have gone without food. I've been cold, I've been naked. Besides everything else, I face daily the pressure of my concern for all the churches. Who's weak and I don't feel it? Who's led into sin and I don't burn? If I must boast, I'll boast of the things that show my weakness. the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who is to be praised forever. He knows I'm not lying. In Damascus, the governor under King Artaxerxes had the city of Damascus guarded in order to arrest me. But I was lowered from a basket. I became a basket case from a window in a wall and slipped through the hands. Boy, he was persecuting others, and now look at his life. And he's like, it's a glorious life to serve Jesus. But those false guys, stay away from them. Hey, love you guys.